On this episode of Carpe Diem, Zoomer Money. From your ideal retirement.
Yeah, he's got a good pension. Mine's not too bad.
And how much money you need to get there.
Start saving early.
Experts Jim Doyle, Brenda St. Louis, and Joy TV's Dean Atwell explore the road to retirement and beyond.
Carpe Diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
Welcome to Carpe Diem. How do we finance our retirement? Do we know what that looks like? And how much will it cost? On today's episode, we discuss retirement money. Do you have enough?
Probably not. Probably not enough, but you know.
My husband's a teacher, so he's a retired teacher, so we have that pension. Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got a good pension. Mine's not too bad. And then when you get OAS and CPP.
I don't know. I really don't know. But fortunately, I'm in a job that I basically like.
I'm just working 3 days a week at pharmacy, and it's great, but it's still not to the point where we'll have enough money for future retirement.
Not to live my lifestyle that I have now. If I went to retirement mode and stop traveling overseas and stop buying fancy cars, then I'm sure I could sustain my life the way it is now. I have a couple of rental properties, and I'm sure I could just live from that.
So, Jim, I heard that maybe we don't have enough or we'd have to downgrade our life.
What I also picked up on is the number of people that have pensions, and the pensions, unfortunately, are going the way of the dodo bird. So it puts a lot more pressure on people to get it right.
I think it's kind of scary sometimes when people feel like they don't have enough. It can put you in a bit of a panic. And I also think that enough is something that is very personal.
What is enough?
What is enough?
You're a family man. What is enough?
I don't know how much I'm going to need, and that I think, like you said, that is the fear. There's a huge emotional connection to figuring out what you're going to do with your money, how much you may need, and to leave enough so that your kids are not fending for themselves.
Yeah. Well, speaking of fears, do you have any fears?
The biggest money worry that people have is there going to be enough cash left for them?
The unknown. I mean, things keep going up in price. Look at the price of gas right now. That's scary to anybody, even if you're still working.
Keeping your lifestyle the way you want it to be without running out of money in the long term.
Brenda, that's a shopping list of fears. Running out, is there enough for the family?
You know, as a financial therapist, I work with people all the time that are trying to figure out actually how to understand their money, first and foremost, and how to satisfy those needs and wants that they have. And I know as someone that's very conscious about the changes that are happening in our environment and stuff like that, that the more we connect with how we consume and how we spend our money is not just good for our wallet, but it's good for the planet.
Is there a disconnect between money and how we feel about money?
Massive. If I talk to somebody about the possibility of planning to live to 100 and what is it going to take, you know, we almost get a little bit of shutdown and stuff like that. And I want to change that perspective if we can.
When we come back, is your home your retirement fund? And is that reliable?
Still ahead on Carpe Diem.
Do you have any other major assets that you use for your retirement plan?
No.
Carpe Diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
Welcome back. In British Columbia, about 70% of us own homes, and many hope that this will make our retirement financially secure. Is that you?
Would you say that your home is a big part of your retirement plan?
Yes. Of course, yes.
It is, but I don't want to have to sell it. That was our forced savings plan.
This girl that I've been seeing for some time now, we're thinking of buying a house together. She's in the same mortgage-free situation I am, and we could probably use that, sell both of our houses, buy a combined house, and probably retire right after that.
Jim, we heard mortgage-free, 2 houses selling. Is it common for people to be mortgage-free as they reach retirement?
I think we're seeing more and more people carrying debt into retirement, you know, and that's a bit concerning. I think the second aspect that I picked up on here is people want to downsize, and the reality is that a lot of people downsize, realize less net than they anticipated. And when clients tell me, you know, Jim, I've downsized, I sold my $2 million house and I bought a $2 million apartment, did they really downsize?
It doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. I think culturally for us, I mean, I live with my parents live with their parents, so coming from an immigrant family, there was that element of your retirement being that your family would take care of you, and we're living a lot longer now. There's a lot more to consider, I find, now than there used to be.
Brenda, what would you like to say about mortgage-free retirement?
Well, I think it's kind of an old idea. You get a mortgage, you want to pay it off, so you're maybe paying extra payments every month, or in the year you save some money, you put it on your mortgage. I think that's a very naive way of leveraging your money. When you have equity in your home, like a chunk of equity in your home, that can be used to create maybe another rental property.
A lot of people don't know that, though. I find I've been taught always just to buy the house, pay off the mortgage, and you should be set then. Just get rid of the mortgage and you'll be okay. But that's not the case.
So don't put all your eggs in one basket, because besides your house, how else will you fund your retirement, we asked.
Do you have any other major assets that fund your retirement?
No, none.
Nope. No, just our house and our teacher's pension.
Not really, no. Well, I get a small pension, you know, like...
Do you have other major assets that are part of your retirement plan, like a mutual fund or something?
Yes.
Asset base, not as much as we probably would have liked.
Like I say, I've got a couple of rental properties that, you know, the options there are just to collect rent revenue from them for as long as I want to, or sell one and come up with some cash.
So Dean, we heard people say that they have a house, they have some pensions, but not really a whole lot of other assets.
I was very confused when I heard the word pensions. I think for my generation right now, we have to really look at becoming financially literate. I'm just on the underside of 45, but we had no teachings other than what we learned from our parents and what our families and friends were doing.
Well, I have to arm wrestle with people because they hold on to some of the perspectives really solidly. Let me give you an example. TFSAs, okay? I would love a TFSA to be used as a tax resource of income in retirement. Yet an awful lot of folks look on their TFSA as a travel fund or a temporary fund, okay? We've got a significant disconnect there. That takes a lot of work to change that.
Yeah, the save for the rainy day means save for retirement. I wish they would use that word. Now, you had some questions for our panel.
Just which markets are the best to invest in? Which ones are going to make you money rather than lose you money? That's the big one, is which ones are going to be the safest.
And I'd say, how am I going to make it spread out and all over?
Well, I would say if they have money and they want to invest it, is to ask what the best thing to invest it in is.
So Jim, let's answer Jackie's question. She asked, safest markets to invest in. What would you say to her?
Well, Jackie's not going to like my answer, okay? I'm going to start with Jackie. I'm going to say, listen, let's start with what your goals are, okay? And then we're going to talk about how we're going to get you there.
So her goal is to have a safe retirement.
But is it really, okay? Is it to generate income? Is it to generate growth? Am I going to spend this in 2 years? Am I going to make this last 20 or 30 years?
Let's say the last one. She wants to make sure she has enough money to live a long life, because she will have a long life.
Then I'm going to say, Jackie, how much of a concern do you have about reducing your standard of living over time? Okay? What happens if the kids come knocking on the door and they need a little help? What does that look like?
Which really brings me to add to that, because a lot of times people want that one answer to answer it all. Like, what is the market I'm going to invest in? And what it does is it puts blinders on someone so that they think, okay, I'm doing it right. Yep. So it's about a moving object, and you have to be flexible all the time.
Well, in fact, let's answer Donna's question, because that was hers, is how do I make it spread out? She's a mom, so obviously she's talking about her kids, and how do you make her money spread amongst the family? What do you say to that?
I have a client who has a fair amount of pension, CPP, old age pension. It's coming in, it's supplying, it's giving them what they need. The investments that they had in their mutual funds over the years, they have to take it out as a RIF, right? So they have to draw stuff out, but they don't need it, right? So what she does is she takes it and she puts it in a TFSA and lets it grow, right? So there are ways that just because you can take the money out doesn't mean you have to. There's ways of leveraging the ones that you do have, because you don't know how long you're going to live.
But you're talking about education,
Yeah.
and that's, again, it comes back to just knowing what to do and not knowing. If somebody's asking you that straightforward question, what do I do? They haven't really looked at the options. They haven't really evaluated what they do need to ask themselves.
It always comes down to education. Now we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're looking into the government's involvement in funding our retirement.
Still ahead on Carpe Diem.
By the 1970s, Canada had now 3 benefits for older Canadians: Old Age Security, OAS, Guaranteed Income Supplement, the GIS, and the Canada Pension Plan.
Carpe Diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
In this segment, we're going to discuss sources of income from the Canadian government. It's not an easy landscape to understand, right, Brenda? I mean, you must have that in your practice too.
I often get people coming in saying, "Oh, I don't need to save because I have Canadian pension plan. I pay it every year with my taxes." But they don't understand what that means and how much it actually is.
We're going to learn something from Dean Atwell because you just went through the process of planning his retirement, and of course, he filmed it.
According to this recent Sun Life financial report, among working Canadians, 75% said they don't have a financial plan, and 44% expect to be employed full-time at the age of 66. So, how does a Canadian figure out their retirement funding and plans? Well, as a reporter, my first inclination is to understand the concept of retirement. Retirement is a relatively new phenomenon in Canada. Around 100 years ago, people worked till they passed away or were unable to continue to work and were then provided for by their extended families. The average lifespan at the turn of the century was just 47 years old. Then came the industrial and mobile age, taking people away from the farm and family lives to more independent work. Good jobs were then found in factories instead of farms. After the First World War, many Canadians were in a position of unemployment and poverty. So in 1927, the Old Age Pension Act was enacted, the first semblance of what would become the retirement concept, helping all our seniors in their later years. Another war came and went, and now Canadians wanted security for the good life to come.
Fairy tales can come true.
Realizing this concept called retirement, in the 1950s, companies started providing private pension plans in order to stay competitive. They were selling the dream of a later leisure lifestyle.
To be narrow of mind if you're young at
By the 1970s, Canada had now 3 benefits for older Canadians: Old Age Security, OAS, Guaranteed Income Supplement, the GIS, and the Canada Pension Plan. Now, my first step here is to head to the Government of Canada's retirement planning website. This will give me some useful tools and some calculators, and more importantly, give me more information on the 3 pension plans available. Now, Old Age Security, or OAS, is available to all Canadians. You're eligible for this amount, whether you've paid taxes or not, or whether you've worked a day in your life in Canada or not. You're eligible. However, you must have lived in Canada for a certain number of years. If you lived here for 40 years after the age of 18, you're entitled to the full benefit. Anything less than that, you're entitled to a partial benefit. With the Canada Pension Plan, you and your employer, Joy TV in my case, contribute towards it. And when you retire, in a roundabout way, you get equal to what you put into it. Now, I do have some RRSP stashed away, and I am paying off a mortgage. However, I'm learning I need to plan more, really figure out what my costs and expenditures are, and also what life for me will look like when I reach 65, not just for myself though, for my family as well.
So do you have all your answers now?
No, I have more questions is what I have. And that's what I learned is that most people, like myself, you don't really start to think about this kind of stuff until you have a family, for me it was children. That's when I started getting a financial advisor. But retirement wasn't really on that plan as much until I did this story, and I realized, man, you have to start thinking about it sooner than later. And what is retirement?
When do people start planning for their retirement, or when should we start?
I think I've heard it said around 52, people start looking over their shoulder and saying, hey, what's my retirement going to look like?
Yeah, I agree. I think most people will look only forward 3 to 5 years. Anything beyond that is just like, we'll see what happens.
Well, if you look at the Stats Can numbers, the people that are retiring at 62, okay, you might think they've chosen early retirement, but usually it has to do with health or job layoffs that have forced that decision on them.
Right, because what is retirement? It's the period where you stop employment. But my advice is first start with the Canada government website. It's not, because it's fact versus opinion. There's
Was
a lot
it
of
easy to
opinions.
navigate?
Yes.
I think that the Government of Canada website was easier to navigate than me listening to all the YouTube videos and going down the rabbit hole with all the web stuff from financial planning agencies, because a lot of it didn't pertain to me. It was generalized.
What about taking a loan out or second mortgages or what have you?
One thing I would say to that is get financially literate first. Don't take these risks saying you listen to one person say something, then you do it. Get educated and start to ask a lot of questions and be really equipped to make the choice. So a lot of people might take a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, out, and then they spend it. Or they put it on their debt, or which sometimes could be a good idea, but they don't actually leverage it in a way that could work for them.
And what's the best way to use that money then?
I have a personal bias, and I believe real estate is a beautiful investment, especially if you can create an income property that was cash flow positive. And if you are going into retirement and you want that income to be coming in until...
Yeah, well, that was Mark on the Streeters. He has a couple of rental properties, plus the house, plus the girlfriend's house, so he's doing well, as long as he doesn't buy expensive cars, right?
Yeah.
We heard a little bit about CPP. Here's a little bit more.
I just got my CPP forms in the mail. I have a choice of collecting, I think, $500 or $600 a month now, or $1,400 a month when I turn 70. And for me, it makes much more sense to hold off and collect later on, simply because I have too much income right now, and it would just change my income tax bracket, and I don't really need the money right now. So these kind of details I'm, I guess, working through.
I didn't have to ask you a question. You already had an answer. What did you say?
He needs a plan.
He needs a planner.
I think, when you're in the middle of it, you anticipate the income coming in on an indefinite basis, you're not really forced to make some of these choices and plan ahead. When life changes, because stuff happens, that's when you wish you'd taken a bit more time.
That's interesting, because I thought he had a plan, that he was going to wait. But what I'm hearing is that you don't have enough knowledge still, even at that point.
Well, if I ask somebody, how would you feel if you're limited to a 2.5% increase on your revenue stream? You'd be going, what? I'm tied down, right? And that's what real estate is right now.
So as we heard from Dean's story, I want to just ask you another question. CPP and GIS. What happens to that money, let's say somebody dies? Does it go to the next of kin?
Well, the GIS basically is based either on a couple's income or an individual's income, and unfortunately that stops when a person passes away, Yours CPP has a survivor benefit that goes with it, and again, depending on how much income you've got coming in, you may or may not see that continuing.
Thank you so much, Jid. That clarifies a lot. We'll be right back with our panel's final thoughts.
Still ahead on Carpe Diem.
Start saving early. Find a job with a pension.
Carpe Diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
It's now time to go around the table for our panel's final thoughts. Brenda.
A lot of times a client will come in to see me that are having difficulties in their relationship and talking about what each of the people in the relationship want in the retirement. Someone might want to do a ton of travel, and another person's feeling really scarce, like there's not enough money. So what I practically do with a client is to make sure that the values that are important to each of them are respected. I mean, it's practical in a sense, but it is therapy, and it's never just one broad stroke for anyone. It's more about you really connecting as a partner in a relationship to know how you want to move forward together.
Yeah. Not just financial therapy, but couples therapy too. Now, what retirement focused advice would you give your younger self?
Well, for myself, work harder, look farther, build your future.
What about you?
I'm totally agree with my husband.
Don't use much credit cards. Okay. If you're going to buy something, try to pay it off because interest will kill you.
Start saving early. Find a job with a pension.
I think you have to strike a balance between having a decent life and saving.
Dean, save, save, save.
We've learned though, but you have to enjoy your life as well. There's a balance. So I became very fearful when I went down this rabbit hole of learning about retirement. There's a lot of opinions out there, but really if you want the facts, I found that the best thing to do, CRA website, and you'll find all the information that pertains to yourself. I've also learned here today that it's never too late, but it's never too early either. So I think for myself, I wish I'd started earlier.
Jim, your final thoughts.
One of the joys of being in this role is I've seen 1,000 lives lived in the choices that are made, okay? Money is important, but quality of life is way more important, okay? And some of the decisions I make today have a dramatic impact on those future choices. That's my tip for everybody.
Thank you, Jim. That's very good advice. And Brenda, thank you for being with us. And Dean, thank you so much for sharing your personal story. If you would like to see a conversation at this table, get in touch. And that's the show. And remember, as our Carpe president, Moses Neimer, always says, the best way to keep going is to keep going. So, Carpe diem and seize your day.